Marital police, well, they call it one of the worst cases of child abuse they've ever seen.
A Valley father is facing more than 100 charges for acts with children. Police say he forced his family members to join in.
If you love me, you would let me do it. Ladies and gentlemen, those are words spoken by none other than the defendant, Christopher Sena, spoken to his then 11-year-old daughter.
On Facebook, Christopher Sena's family seemed like the perfect, normal, everyday family. He regularly posted about his love for his family. He spoke of his son learning a valuable lesson after he was made to clean up the house, after he had made a mess in it. He also posted that he and his wife, Deborah, made the best couple in the whole wide world. Many neighborhood kids would hang out at the Sena's home. Chris would even set up a projector screen in the yard and hold a movie night for the neighborhood. Chris was a sound engineer and a frequent vendor for community events. Chris even hosted an event for the local police as part of their promotion to increase crime awareness in the neighborhood. You'll learn how ironic that is. However, things were not as they seemed. After Chris's trailer home at the 6000 block of Yellowstone Avenue in Las Vegas, Nevada was raided by police in 2014. Some very disturbing images and videos of his own children were found on his electronic devices. This man was actually a monster, hiding behind the fake image of a good father and husband on social media, which seems to happen all too often. Put up a front on Facebook and different social media platforms. So when you envy a family that is on social media thinking they have the perfect life, you may find out that they actually have a house of horror. Just like the Sena family. It was a house of horror for these children. Before we begin, I must warn you that this case is very disturbing and involves PA and SA of children. Also, a little bit of SA on animals. I know, disturbing. It's up there with one of the worst cases I have done. I wouldn't say it was the worst. I've done some really bad ones, but it is quite up there. So viewer discretion is advised. The children who are victims in this story will be given alias names in order to protect their identities. Hello, my name is Holly. Welcome to the Murder She Shed. This is the place I tell rarely told true crime right from my she shed. This is the first time you found me and you don't want to lose me in this big YouTube world. Just make sure you push that subscribe button because, this nerdy girl gets lost in here. It's such a big world, and I'm such a small channel. So push the subscribe button so you can hear my rarely discussed true crime and breaking cases right here from my she shed. Love to have you. Join us. We're just a nerdy bunch that gather around in a she shed. You don't want to miss out. In 1987, Chris met Terry, who was 4 years younger than him and was a substitute teacher that taught locally. You will find out how disturbing that truly is in a minute. They met in May of 1990. They got married after she became pregnant with a little girl we're going to call Ashley. 4 years later, they had a little boy we will call Todd in this story. Their relationship was warped from the start. Terry allowed Chris to her 12-year-old sister, and she would get involved in the SA as well. This woman was a substitute teacher. Think about it. She could have been teaching your kids. And she was helping her husband, her own sister. I can't imagine why, but the couple's marriage only lasted 7 years, and they divorced in 1997. A year later, Terry had a new man and was pregnant again with another little boy we will call Roy. Also, Chris met a new woman named Deborah. Deborah was a cable TV installer. They married in 1998 and she quickly became pregnant and gave birth to their first child together, a little boy we are going to call Ben. While Deborah and Chris were still married, Terry came crawling back to Chris. So Chris told Terry to move in with him and Deborah. This double-wide trailer now housed 3 adults and 4 children. Now Chris was not only having sex with Deborah, his wife, but also his ex-wife, Terry. And they allowed it in the same house. And yeah, during this time, he began also abusing the children. He would throw household items at them, such as remote controls, rocks, a wrench, and shoes. Chris once threw a metal pipe at Ashley's head, hitting her in the back of the head. And after other people learned about the injury, he beat her with a wooden spoon. When Ashley was 14, Chris became angry with her and grabbed her by the hair, dragged her into the house, threw her on the floor, and pressed his foot down on her throat. Chris would slap Ben and push him to the ground, and in one instance, threw Terry's child by another man, Roy, against the table. In another instance, Chris pushed Todd to the ground and pressed his foot on the little boy's chest. Can you say dysfunctional? And it only gets more dysfunctional. It gets disgusting and disturbing, and I can't even imagine what these children had to endure in that house of horrors. Although the PA was horrific, it didn't compare to the SA the children had to endure in that home. Ashley, the oldest child, was the first to be SA'd by this monster when she was only 11 years old. It started with him just touching her on the outside of her clothes. Then after touching under her clothes, this soon escalated to after he assaulted her the first time, Chris told Ashley he had police friends. No one would believe her if she reported it, and she would be the one that would be sent to jail because she was the one that had actually done something wrong, not him. He began to abuse her daily after that, and Ashley felt that she should let him abuse her because, well, he would just be in a better mood afterwards and wouldn't beat her little brothers. She believed she was protecting her little brothers by allowing him to abuse her. When Ashley turned 14, her own mother began getting involved in the abuse. Chris forced Terry and Ashley to be together, and then he joined in. He filmed the encounters and seemed to act as a movie director and direct his actors. Terry did admit to being attracted to young females and male teens. I suppose it didn't matter in this family if the teens happened to be your own children. Ashley began hitting herself in the stomach with a 2x4 because she was afraid of getting pregnant with her dad's child. Chris would also have Ashley invite female friends over to swim, and he would take those friends into his office. Chris had cameras installed all over this trailer home, including the bathrooms, where he could watch the children no matter what they were doing or where they were doing it. If Ashley and her brother were not in front of the cameras when Chris was not home, he is at work or whatever, he would call and ask them where they were. Around Ashley's 18th birthday, Chris had his wife, Deborah, get involved with SAing Ashley. When Terry and Chris's second child, Todd, turned 13, they began SAing him too. The first time it occurred, Chris directed Deborah and Todd to wash each other's bodies while he recorded this. After they were forced to bathe each other, he then made them perform acts on each other. The SA continued until Todd turned 17 and left home. Chris's stepchild, Roy, began getting SA'd around 11 years of age. These assaults would often involve his mother, Terry. After one incident, Roy was repeatedly slapped until he made a statement that he felt loved in the house. The children and his wife, Deborah, were also forced to have with the family dog while Chris filmed. I'm sorry, this is a horrible case. You can't even make this stuff up. I don't know how people become so evil. Ben, who was Deborah and Chris's only bio son and the baby of the family, began getting SA'd when he was 3 years old by Deborah, and she began performing acts on him. When Ben was around 14, Chris would make Deborah Ben while he watched and filmed it. Terry's niece, Erica, would also come to visit the Sena household. He would film Erica taking a shower while Terry, his wife or ex-wife, performed acts on him. Additionally, Chris showed Terry's other underage niece and filmed her taking a shower in his home also. Terry later told authorities that she enjoyed having relations with one son because he looked so much like her ex-husband, Chris. I found that so disturbing. Well, He looks like you too, because guess what? He's your son too. Chris would threaten and tell his wife, ex-wife, and children that he would kill them or break their legs if they attempted to leave. In 2014, at 24 years of age, Ashley was still living in that trailer with the family. She's too scared to leave. And her brother told her that he was also getting essayed. Until that point, Ashley had been unaware that Chris had been essaying her brothers too. And with this new information, realized that submitting to her father had not actually protected her brothers from being essayed. Ashley and Ben gained the courage to flee the Sena home. They convinced Deborah to help them escape. This was not the first time they had attempted to get away from Chris, however. Deborah and Terry and at least one of the children tried to reach out to authorities about the abuse at the hands of Chris several times before. After Chris learned about these attempts to contact CPS, the children received huge beatings. At one point, Deborah applied for a temporary restraining order against her husband, but it was denied. So to escape was a scary thought to Deborah and the two children, but they gathered some belongings anyway while trying to avoid the cameras in the home and were able to make it to the shelter before Chris realized that they were gone. They were not even going to go to the police until Chris began threatening them by email and text. Deborah got an attorney and went to the police with Ashley and Ben at that point. The SWAT team served a warrant on September 18, 2014 at the family's trailer near Nellis Air Force Base. SWAT team stormed the Sena trailer to arrest Chris and seized his recording equipment. Authorities found videos showing all three adults engaging in acts with these children as part of a child ring. Also, encounters have been filmed with the family dog on these videos. Sadly, Ashley said during the trial, I was just an object for him to do awful things to because there was no one there to tell him otherwise.
I hated her. Why did you hate her? Because she allowed it to happen. Did you and Carrie ever talk about this? No.
Can you imagine having no mother that would attempt to protect you from this monster? That makes both Terry and Deborah out to be just as big of monsters as Chris is. They said in court that they were victims also because of all the abuse that Chris perpetrated on them. But in my eyes, as a mother and a grandmother, they are actually worse than he is.
I was afraid that I would never see my kids again. I was afraid he was going to hurt me. And if I didn't comply, at that point, the kids would suffer. You would take it out on the kids.
Did you want to do any of these things?
Absolutely not.
Why did you do them?
I was in fear. He's always made me fearful of him.
Deborah and Terry were handed life sentences with possibility of parole in 10 years. Unbelievable. Chris Sena was charged for 95 crimes and was given 341 years in prison. Thank God the monster will die in prison. At least that's good news. Wherever all the victims of these monsters are today, I hope they were able to get the help they needed and now are living at least a happier life, even though I know they will never truly get over this house of horrors. I can't imagine how you could. I mean, I was essayed when I was 7 years old. I've talked about it some on here. Definitely not by a family member. It was a neighbor of my grandma's. But I just can't imagine being able to recover, especially if it was your father and mother that done such awful things to you. Someone that's supposed to love and protect you, and they just abused you like that. I just can't even imagine how someone could get over this. Hard to believe that these kind of people can exist in the world, but they do. Sometimes we're naive and we live our little sheltered life and we forget to look around us and see what other people are going through. These children were going through hell. If it could have just been stopped earlier, they wouldn't have had 12 years of this. 12 years of these monsters abusing them. All right, guys, I got to get back to whatever I planned to do today. It's supposed to rain all day, so it's going to be kind of a long day, I think. I hate when it rains all day. Although we're still working on the theater room, I should probably go help my husband. He's doing it by himself right now while I record. And Simon wants to tell y'all bye. Here he comes. All right, Bubba. Say bye. Shake. Give me a shake. You're wet. You know, you've been out in the rain. You're wet. You're not. Let's go. Oh. I wasn't ignoring Max. I just now seen him out the window, sitting out there patiently waiting. I really wasn't ignoring him.